All right. Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking into the matter of the last minute move by the federal government to avert the nationwide strike put forward by organized labor. They had a meeting yesterday, and some issues that were reviewed, especially talking about the provisional wage award that the president gave. It was reviewed from 25,000 naira to 35,000 naira. And the conversation is if labor will actually suspend the strike based on some of the agreements reached with government as it is, but the Labour is going to hold a National Executive Council meeting today to decide how it moves forward with regards to that decision, if it's going to hold a strike or not. We still have our guests with us in the studio is convener, Campaign for Dignity in Governance, Razak Ulukoba, and via Zoom we have a policy analyst, Shijibumi Adebi Bennett. Right, let me come to you now, Razak. Let's look at the part of government. We've seen several times where not just organized labor, but for instance, ASU also coming out to say government reneged on its promises and all of it. Right now, what will be commitment for you from government with regards to this that it has put forward? Recall you mentioned earlier that the issue between government and labor is trust. And right now, we need to build that trust moving forward because we need both parties to be on the same page to move the country forward.
Well, the government should try to create time to offer explanations, not only even to labor, even to Nigerians. For instance, if you look at the speech of the president yesterday, it's very consoling. He has won more converts. There's the usual critique that will follow whatever the government has said. And that is why, at all time, the information people will have at their hand should be readily available even for them to engage labor, ASU, or anybody who has something with the government. But when government don't give us content about what they are doing, how do they engage ASU? How do they engage labor? The president spoke extensively. It's a summary of a lot of things. If you look at it very well, he spoke about security, he spoke about the economy, the CBN. What he said on the CBN, the crisis of bringing someone from a private sector to CBN, forgetting that CBN is not a profit-making organization. There's a double perspective for someone who is going to man CBN. The interest of the commercial banks who are ready to make profit, and also the responsibility of the government to Nigeria to ensure that our dollar has its economic sanity for it not to create a crisis for our economy. That should be a balance. Now, that's what you have explained. So when government compares all leaders of sectors, the ministries, to do what the president is doing at all times, it gives people the idea of what is happening in the educational policy, in the educational policy of the government, so that when ASU makes a demand, already people will understand that this is outrageous or this is in line. But you don't give us the content of what is happening in the government, and that is why we have to encourage the president to instruct all his ministers to be doing what he has done yesterday. We can't be saying the president all the time, but the president must also do that quarterly. The president must also tell every ministries that your activity in your agencies must explain to Nigeria. So that will help us. In fact, there are moments that it is the people, it has happened all over the world, where people call for a boycott of a strike, that we know the limitation of our government. This demand cannot be met at the moment. But at times, we create permutation on our own to defend government. So what the president has given us yesterday will sustain us for another 3, 4, 5 months. But after that 5 months, there must be another content. You must also understand things why you are doing again. If you don't do that, you will allow Nigerians themselves to create content for themselves. And once you create content for yourself, there's a likelihood that you are going to misrepresent the government. You might be accurate at times. But in most cases, you will say things that the government will be shocked. No, that's not what we are saying. No. So, but if you periodically or consistently explain what you are doing, clearly people understand your challenges. So on labor, we must not allow matter to go like this. We must understand what the government by the society of the government. So that when they tell us, Nigerians will know that no, the government is not insincere about this. So the truth is that our economy is in bad shape. We must understand the content. So, but if you don't tell us some of these things, we won't be able to defend you with the labor. So, and if you look at the pattern of protests, strikes from 1999, the Oshiomhole time, it has more effect than what is happening with the one Ajero has called down. A lot of Nigerians are beginning to panic that why are these guys bringing this kind of thing issues in at this critical moment? So, but if you have more content again, we will have the opportunity to defend government the more.
All right. So Shijibomi, the president, drove that across, that the economy is in bad shape. He didn't say as much, but when you look at, the breakdown of his speech, amidst the announcement of, increment somewhat in wages of federal government staff, how much of, how cogent, is that, or to what extent do you relate with, yes, labor has its grievances, but this is where we are as a nation in terms of our financial standing, really?
Yes, I think the government was right in introducing the wage award for 6 months because wage increment is a policy issue and it's time bound. So it's every 5 years, and though the last one was not done on time or in time, I think the next one is due for next year. So that is a policy issue, that is a time-bound issue, so that we have to see, and the government cannot do it alone. The federal government has to call private stakeholders as well as the sub-government, the state government, to a negotiation table with labor, and they have to agree on what is feasible and what is practicable. Because I have not confirmed, but I still hear reports that even the 18,000 minimum wage has not been implemented in some states. Not to talk of the 30,000 we're saying is not a living wage as of today. So having that wage award is good, but it concerns just the federal government workers. Will the state governments also have their own version of wage award? I know some states have added 10,000 already. I think Ogun State has done that. Edo State is trying to review salaries from 40,000. I think
to 40,000.
Yes, okay, to 40,000. I think they are saying they are the highest paying states in the state for now, in the country for now. So that's fine if the states can also complement the federal government's gesture and had to and have the wage award for people at the lowest rung of the ladder in terms of the employment ladder, I mean. So, but beyond that, we're looking at things that are going to really ease the pains of people. Transportation, very, very important. So what are the governors doing with respect to that? When the CNG comes, and I hope it comes on time, the CNG buses the federal government will be releasing. The last time, I've forgotten the number now, but I think it was when we did the division, it was going to be like maybe 14 or 20 for each state. With that, what am I even saying? I think 3 or 4 for each state. I can't remember. So, but will that really ameliorate the pains or the hardship? Are the governors going to complement on that? That's why we're saying the state NLC leaders, how are they holding the governors accountable? So everything cannot come from Abuja. Today is not the story for what the federal is doing, how it cannot work if we don't have the proper delegation of powers and all of that. Today is not the day to say it, because I see us as a country going in circles if we don't really address the specific problems we have. And history can have had so many speakers in the last 48 or 24 hours speak about the problems of Nigeria. We all know it, but nobody seems to want to face it. And this is still part of the problem. Federal focus. Nobody is holding those states accountable. The legislature in every state is, as I won't want to say the word, on national TV. But we know how it is. Right. Two states are having issues with deputy governors, and the legislature in those states are like on one side. So these are issues. These are issues that Labour can even get themselves involved in. Right. But what do? Fight the federal alone, get some crumbs from the federal in terms of minimum wage and in terms of some promises, and go back to their secretariat. Okay. I want to appreciate Mr. Olokoba for clarifying the issue with supporting parties in alignment with your ideology. But what I meant when I said that was, it's not wrong for Labour to support a political party if it is in alignment with their with their ideology. Yeah. So that's not wrong. Okay.
Because of time, right? If you could, let me just quickly ask one question so that we can quickly tighten up. Now, who puts pressure on Labour to perhaps begin to shift focus from focusing on the federal government to looking to other areas of perhaps policy, like Shijibomi mentioned, addressing some of the nitty-gritty that is critical to the welfare of the average Nigerian worker as it is now? How do we begin to ensure Labour shifts its focus?
Well, the issue of little conscience will compel them to do the right thing. That's first inspiration for every activist, that they need to do the right thing. And proceeding from that, there's an age-long battle between the Labour and the civil society. The Labour tends to say that we pretty government these days rather than giving them an alliance. And we said that we have had a good. There are some numbers of civil society that see with them, but some of us are assertive that you are traumatizing Nigerians if you create the impression that everything starts and ends with the federal government. And for some of us, we have our own opinion. The civil society have their own permanent opinion that Labour is not doing it right. Just like me and every other person have agreed that Labour can do more. Labour is, apart from the government, is also one of the most powerful institutions in any country. And if you look at the model, universal model, it has always been the struggle. When they were in the Industrial Revolution in Europe, America, the struggle has always been between the private sector and the labor. Little did the federal government or the state government take part in it. So doing what you are doing today is part of it. That we speak to the conscience of the labor, that the pressure about legal struggle may start with government, but it doesn't end with government. Boa Cement has done something. It is part of the responsibility of Labour to also move into origin sector. Our parliament are demanding for Prado, but there's no CDA in the East. There's no CDA in the East.
All right.
Which can bring the price
any
of
business.
No, I'm not promoting business. What I'm saying is that the local content
very good
that will make life easy for Nigerians in terms of transportation should also be looked at by Labour.
Labour should also
those are one of the critical sectors. Right. Transportation, house rent, food, and all those things.
Mr. Olokoba, I just wanted to clarify, something that Shijibomi said earlier. You were right. Edo State government is planning to, an upward review of the 40,000 minimum wage. And, just on the 20 seconds, how, sustainable do you think that is under our present economic straits?
Shijibomi, are you still there?
I think they was paying higher than.
Okay, I didn't know the question was for me. So
you were right. I was saying that yes, Edo State is planning to review the 40,000 minimum wage in the state, yes. But how sustainable is it for you? Can you just answer under a few seconds?
I think it's sustainable. Okay. Everything in Nigeria, every state can really sustain some policy, any policy they come up with, because they will have done their calculations and permutations before they come up with it. Okay. And if they reduce waste, they can do, we can even have a 50,000 minimum wage. The challenge is, in some states, not all states anyway, the challenge is how willing are they to sacrifice? The sacrifices they are telling the citizens to make, how willing are the political class ready to make it?
And that's a fine place to leave the conversation. Thank you so much, policy analyst Shijibomi Adebiyi-Bennett, for your time, as well as convener, Campaign for Dignity in Governance, Razak Olukoba, for your time.
Thank you very much
on the program. Thank you, gentlemen.